Hello everybody, and finally welcome to this Elite Dangerous live stream. Apologies if you've been waiting in the wings, and thank you for your patience. We had a little bit of internet trouble, but we finally got there and we are now gracing your screens. The other thing I'd like to mention before we get started tonight is, yes, we are aware that some of you have been having mission board and passenger mission issues. We are currently looking into that, and as soon as we have some information for you, we will make sure you have that. So, on to tonight's stream. So, welcome. This is a Discovery Scanner, our 7th Discovery Scanner actually, where we will be looking at Voices of the Void, where we'll be talking to two beautiful voice actors who we have with us today, and Paola, our beautiful sound designer.
Everybody swoosh your hair.
Yeah, swoosh, thank you very much. And we're going to be looking at what role the sort of voice acting industry plays in the games industry and why it's so important and how it works on both a tech and a performance level. So, now we know who I am. Let's introduce ourselves. Let's start with Paola. Hello, Paola.
Hi. Hi, everyone. So I'm Paola. I'm a senior sound designer here at Frontier. I've been working here for around 4 years and a half. I actually started here as an audio QA, and then quickly moved on to the audio department. I've been working on sound design and also on the voice of the game. So I do a lot of just the taking care of the scripts, like casting the actors, recording them, and then processing those files and putting them into the game, among other things. But those are the main things that we work on. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you, Paola. And then we'll dive a little bit more into what you do in some more detail shortly. And then obviously we have with us Britton and Amelia Tyler. Let's start with Amelia. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Thank you for joining us
That's
tonight.
all right.
So
Nice
exciting
to
to
be
have
back.
you. Yes, so would you like to introduce yourself to the beautiful boys and girls at home?
Okay, hi. I'm Amelia Tyler. I'm a voice actor for video games and various other things. And I was lucky enough to play a whole bunch of parts in Elite Dangerous among various other video games. So it's really nice to be back here and just like chat.
How long have you been in the industry?
Ooh, I've been voicing since the earth cooled. That's technical. Since I was 5 years old, so 33 years now. But only in the video games industry about the last 4, I'd say, 5.
Fair enough.
But it snowballed very, very quickly, I think, because I've been voicing and acting for stage and screen since I was very, very young. And I think games reached that amazing point where they wanted a bit more cinematic realism to the performances, and it was just this sweet spot.
Perfect.
Now, like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm doing a whole bunch of games now, cool.
Brilliant. Thank you once again. And again, we were going to get a little bit more into what you do and how you do it shortly. And then last but definitely not least, hello Jay.
Hi
Jay.
everybody. I'm Jay, in case you missed that. Yeah, Jay Britton, voice actor. I do, again, a bunch of video games and animation and all the other sort of fun stuff from the voiceover world. I'm slightly different from Amelia in that I went, what do I want to do with my life, what do I really want to do? And I worked in IT for 13 years until my soul was dead and charred and black inside. And then for about the last decade or so, something close to a decade now, I've been working in voice, and again, similarly for games the last 6 or 7 years. And of course, got to work with the wonderful Frontier on Elite, doing a whole bunch of crazy space-based stuff, which has been a lot of fun.
Sean Bean in space.
Sean Bean in space, because I always die in space. Yes.
Brilliant. So thank you. So that's us again. Thank you for joining us, and you're going to get to know us all a little bit better during this stream. So tonight we're going to be covering, and I have my notes just to help me out a little bit, what the use of voice acting is in games. You know, what makes good voice acting, bad voice acting. We've all heard different examples of different things, and as it's become more of an art, it's definitely improved. So we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at creating a character and how the games industry does that, where it comes from game devs and then where it goes to the actors themselves. We're going to be looking at the performance itself, which is why we have these two lovely people with us to bring their expertise. And then we're going to be looking at the technical implementation, which is why we have lovely Paola here, who will be able to talk us through all that. So, We understand you may have some questions. We won't necessarily be able to answer any during the stream because we've got quite a lot to talk about, but we will take some of them down and see if there's a time in the future we can look to answer those for you. So do feel free to pop them in the chat anyway. So the first thing that we're going to do is have a look at one of our Commander Chronicles videos. This one is called Lift Off. It came out last year, about June, July time, to announce the Crate Mark II, and you'll hear some beautiful voice acting in here and sort of see what a finished product from us looks like. So, Stephen, if you could take it away.
Space is cruel. You fly too high, it'll knock you right back down. Remind you just how small you are. How fragile. But I'm a pilot. A commander. Always will be. So give me a ship, a crew, maybe a little luck, and I'll show this galaxy what elite really means. Let's see what's out there.
Hello again. Now, I love that video. Obviously, you guys couldn't heard it, but I'm sure Paola's heard that one before. The gentleman in it has a very deep, rumbly, sort of very Red Dead Redemption type voice, and a bit of a vagabond in space. So I absolutely love it. I love that video. So that's a little bit of what a finished product looks like from us. We will be looking at some audio logs, one from each of these guys as well during the stream, as well as some other screenshots and videos that Paola has kindly provided. So Paola, let's start with you.
Yeah.
So, obviously you are a senior audio designer. We've already covered that bit. So, what does a senior audio designer do?
Yeah, so here, what we do is basically when we're working on a feature, we start to get involved since the inception of the feature, and we start to come up with what we want the voice and the characters and the story to be. What we want to either inform the player or what we want it to mean for the player. So we're trying to define all these things at the beginning. This we do with the narrative team and design as well. So we work closely together, yes. Trying to put all these pieces together and just defining a character that we know will fit into the elite world in a way that helps create either a very compelling story or immerse the players in this world that we want to create for them. So that's what we begin doing. After that, once we define what we want, we start to cast for the characters. So we create a biography, a little bit of a backstory, and just sort of characteristic we want the character to have. So it could be like we want this character to be just sort of rugged, this vagabond in space, this person who's like a bit of a pirate maybe, has this sort of flavor and maybe want to have a specific accent as well. So we start defining all those things. Once we have that, we cast the characters and we start, once we define who the voice actor is going to be, we start recording. So we have to basically prep the script so it's at a point where we know it reads well, it communicates what we want it to say, and it works for what we're trying to do. So it could be different for an audio log as opposed to, for example, something like the Lua scenarios, so that's like the conflict zones or like the USSs, that kind of thing. So it depends on what it is. Once we have the recordings, we put the assets. Once we have them, we process them. We sort of sometimes normalize them, equalize them, and then we start putting them into the game. So we use a third-party tool, called Wise.
Okay, and I think we've got a screenshot as well, which we can have a look at with some of the tools.
Yeah. So we use 2 tools, actually. In-house, we use Wise, and we also use this tool, which is our own proprietary tool. This one we have developed in-house, and it lives within our engine, which is called Cobra. And basically, it's integrated part of the engine. So this is the script, what you see there. Here on the bottom, on a little green highlight, you can see the waveform. So what it has is an integrated recorder within the script. So this all lives within our engine. So what it allows us to do is, so you have the lines on the script. Here you can see the voice actor view. So you can highlight which line you want to record, and this helps also the actors sort of cue to which line you're recording. And then once you have it recorded, it automatically labels the line. So it's something we don't have to do manually after recording. So this allows us to like automate the process a lot faster. And just like for internal use as well, it's much easier for design, for example, to create a line or the narrative team. So it's very helpful for everyone, all the departments involved.
Yeah, so it helps us know exactly, which part of the script goes with which part of audio. We've probably all heard of, some audio bungles in games where it's like that. That doesn't sound like that was the correct line. Was the right line put in there? Was it labeled? Was it recorded all in a single take and not cut up properly? So that allows us to, get a better polish, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
which is excellent, and it's a really handy-looking tool. Actually, it's nice and easy to sort of understand, which is great. So obviously we have our tech, and I do have, and I'm going to ask Jay to read this for me.
Oh God!
Well, because we don't have another gentleman here on the stream.
Right.
So Ian Dingwall is our lead narrative designer. I believe that's his title. Please don't kill me. Our lead narrative designer, and he wanted to give us a little bit of backstory as to what the narrative team does in terms of creating a character and helping the audio team bring that to life, as you described. So here we go. If you would mind, if you could read that out.
Do you want me to make this all very narrative and exciting?
You can do if you'd like to. So yeah, this is from Ian Dingwall. It's just a bit of a description of how his team slots in with the audio team at the very beginning of a project to really bring a character and a scene and an idea to life.
And this is a good skill test for any potential voice actors. Sight reading. There better not be any big words in here.
There might be.
We usually start by listing the character's main attributes, consisting of a primary trait, 2 secondary traits, and a flaw. It's important to ensure there's incompatibility or conflict between the primary trait and the flaw, because this gives us internal conflict, which in turn helps to generate drama and narrative. So, if, for example, the character's main trait is honourable, their flaw might be something like cowardly. They want to do the right thing, but they're handicapped by fear. Next comes the bio, which summarises the character's history and elaborates on their personality. The history part is usually quite short, providing just enough to provide some context. The description of the character's personality typically focuses on the conflict between the primary trait and the flaw, how it manifests itself, and what kind of impact it has on their life. Finally, we include a few samples of character dialogue to give a sense of how the character speaks. Overall, the aim is to give the voice actor clear and unambiguous direction, so they've got something concrete upon which to base their performance.
Very nice, thank
Jay,
you.
could you do it again, but sound like you're not reading a script?
No.
A little tiny trip at the end, but way better. So thank you very much, Jay. So
Very welcome. Very
that
good.
statement came from Ian, and yeah, it just shows there's a lot of thought that goes into each individual character, and no matter how small or how large the role is that they play. So, Paola, we have the help we've got from the narrative team. We've got our characters, we've got our profiles. We've hired a voice actor. They're in the booth. What do we do now?
Okay, so now's where the magic happens. So yeah, like there's a lot of preparation that goes before that moment when you have the voice actor. Usually when they come in, you brief them again. Usually all the time we send the script beforehand.
Thank
so
you.
they're yeah. So
Some people
they're
don't.
so they're like aware of who the character is, what the lines are. So they're familiarized with all they have to perform. But you know, we still have a little bit of brief beforehand, just so that we're all on the same page. And then once we start recording, we usually do a couple of runs of the lines, just to get into the mood, kind of thing, and then just start even warming up, which is something that, you know, like it helps once the voice actor is in the space, kind of thing, like it's gets the character. Then we start just like carrying on, and yeah, there's you know, like if we need to sometimes provide some sort of lead-in or something to sort of help the actor just kind of, you know, get the performance where you know we want them to be. Sometimes we could just say like, okay, if this line you feel like it starts maybe a bit too abrupt, you can add just a little bit ad-lib of like, so what I was saying, or like an okay, so, and then sort of leading to the line, and this helps, like gives it a lot more natural performance, and just sounds a lot more natural. So those kind of things. Also sometimes there might be a certain line that's a little bit difficult to say or something, and sometimes because some scripts are very large, the voice actor might be like, oh, you know, like I'm struggling a little bit with this line, so usually you just carry on, kind of thing, and then you come back, and it's not abnormal that the voice actor just gets it right away, just nails it. So it's little like things like that always helps. And yeah, just like trying to keep the most attention that you can just to keep in character the performance all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have the narrative team with you sometimes as well to just sort of,
yeah,
if they're like, I don't, would my character do this, and they can be there to be like, yes or no, why would you think that?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
honestly.
absolutely. And sometimes like even the voice actor, like their own personality and their own ideas, like they say like, oh, you know, like I think this character could do with a little bit of this, you know, and then they try it and it's like, yeah, that's perfect, you know, like they're owning the character. Yeah. So that's what we like to enable the voice actors to do.
Do you guys find that helpful? Do you like to have a character set in stone, you know exactly what you're going to do?
That kind of thing is massively helpful, because I think when you're creating a character for somebody else's voice and somebody else's brain to pilot, it's easy to think of it in the way that you think, and you can make the words perfect on the page, but you try and produce them out of a human larynx who is feeling a certain way, and sometimes it doesn't quite gel. And there are companies that we've both worked for various reasons that are completely married to the script as it is, whether that's just because the writer wants it to be the way they want it to be, or because it's later in the project and everything has gone for translation and it needs to stick to that. So you find ways around it, but that way it's like we were talking about earlier, it's a team sport, and it's much easier to feel like you're part of that team and you're creating a character all together. It's not an actor walking into a voice booth and going, behold my performance, aren't I glorious, and now I leave. It's more of a, it's a team thing.
I guess the key word there is actor. You know, you're not just voice provider. It's come on, bring a little bit of yourself.
A lot of
into
people
it.
think it's that.
And I was saying earlier that in theory our part is, you know, you have your coding specialist and your audio specialist and your art specialist, and what we are ultimately is character specialists. If you want us to give you a character, then we take that and we go, okay, well, let's add in the little bit that I know that can fit in here and here, and or if you just maybe just flip that sentence around, it will flow better for the character and the way they speak, and you end up, it's all those little nuances that actually go from this is just somebody speaking to actually this is a character speaking, which is two very, very different things.
And I think that's what separates Frontier from a lot of places. The places I enjoy working for the most are the ones who recognize that we're more than just script reading robots. A lot of people do think it's, you know, voice acting is just reading a script, and it's absolutely not. That's the smallest part of it. It's creating a character together that works in this universe and feels like it's alive and breathing.
Normally I would say, thank you, that's so kind. Let me pass that along to the team.
We love you. Thank you for making our jobs easier.
But yeah, that's really lovely to hear. Thank you for that feedback.
Yes.
And I think that comes through when we hear the performances, when you go to any of the generation ships, and a lot of people have said, I was totally terrified, and it was like, why? It was like they sounded scared. They sounded like they were trapped on a ship with people literally shooting at them, and that was scary.
That's the job.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You got out exactly what you set out to achieve. And you know, I know from some of your logs, some people went, I hated the character that he hated, because they understood that that's what it was meant to go. And you know, like some of the logs where you sounded, you know, all hope is lost, they were like, I don't know how I deal with this anymore. And that means you've gotten your character across perfectly. So yes, very good.
And it's possible to do that without good direction, but it's an uphill
helps.
struggle. Whereas if you feel like everybody's in it together, that's so much easier and more fun.
Awesome.
I remember on one of the generation ships that I did, the first one actually, the one in the Formidine Rift, where the direction that came across that just changed the whole read was we were doing the read, okay, this is fine, but just there's something missing, and then I think it was Joe who was directing, who said, okay, yeah, it's freezing cold, all your heating's gone out, and all we did to the performance was just add in that kind of breathiness that all of a sudden now, okay, well now it sounds like this person is somewhere that's freezing cold and they're dying, and all of a sudden the read just became something completely different.
It's
fascinating.
I just got Maggie Smith in space for that one, and that's all you need to know, right? That's,
Done, easy.
you know her.
Go.
So, Paola, another thing for you, and then we will speak to our lovely voice actors here. So, okay, you've hired the actor, they've done the voice lines, you've got all the direction, you've figured out they're freezing cold, and everything is in the system, you've got it all, it's done. How do you put that in a game?
Yeah, so that's also
And do we
Click
have
the
a
button,
video
right?
to go with that?
Go in game button.
Insert.
yeah, just like put it. We
Do
have
you want us to show the video?
yeah, of course.
Yes, fabulous.
So here we have a little example. So this is conflict zone dialogue.
So there, they'll be able to hear us more.
Yeah. So here, the player gets a message from this person who's communicating directly. It's a team leader. After that, they will get messages from just like objectives that this person is communicating throughout the time that they're fighting in the conflict zone. The next bit here. So it's when another teammate, because when they join conflict zone, they join a team. Another teammate goes and says just sort of feedback to the player, either if they're winning or losing. So this helps give an idea of what's going on.
So each line obviously has to be paired to the action, so it's not going to be like, you won if you just blew up and died.
Exactly.
It's got to make sure it
Yeah.
knows what's going on in the game to be able to relay the correct information.
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. So, and I can I understand it's got to be a little bit complicated to actually make that happen. So
Yeah,
what's the
of course.
process? How do you make sure that the wrong thing doesn't set up?
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, we work closely with designers and the code team, so that, for example, the player joins a team, then they start fighting in the war zone, and when they, for example, get a kill, they might potentially get a message from one of the teammates saying like, "A nice shot, Commander," or "Another one down, great job," kind of thing. So we sort of tie it to a specific actions in the game. So it's like the player gets that immediate feedback while it's happening, and that also we tie it to the objective. So for example, if you're in a conflict zone and one of the bosses jumps in while you're fighting, the team leader will go and say, we have this mercenary or something like that in the zone, we need to take them down. So the player immediately knows, oh, okay, this is a new target. And we tie it with the code so that when that ship jumps in, we communicate the objective to the player, and that is immediately visible to them. So we always tie it to specific actions, especially in a scenario like what we just saw, a conflict zone. There's a lot of stuff going on,
Yes.
and they can last for a very long time. So having this feedback of like either your teammates communicating of like we're starting to lose, and we're like, oh, we just lost another unit, you know, like this is not going well, kind of thing. So the player kind of knows that, you know, we need to ramp up and get those kills.
And it makes it feel quite immersive as well.
Exactly.
Especially because, you know, you might be playing on your own and you go into a conflict zone and suddenly it springs to life with all these people and, you know, all these actions and these commands, and, you know, you then understand immediately from the audio cues where you are in that timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one last thing is that most players have probably heard this in many places in the game. We really like to create like sort of layers of audio. So for example, what's communicating directly to the player is just a direct communication, and that's very clear. They will hear it, you know, very clearly. Then as the sort of importance of what's being said is sort of lower, and we just want it to be either for feedback or more just for immersion, then it might go a little bit lower in the mix, but it still gives that sense of like, okay, I have someone talking to me, kind of thing. And a lot of scenarios in the game have this background chatter. So what this creates is like this sense of like people talking in the background, but it's not quite, you can't quite tell very well what's being said, but it creates a lot of immersion, and it's almost like a bed of audio that is almost like an ambience in itself. So we create those sort of layers of voice in the game, kind of thing, and I really like how we can sort of sell the idea of a player being in a location and just sort of hearing, oh, I'm in a station, I'm hearing these people going about their usual business in the station, or I'm in a war zone, people are like shooting at each other, and you know, this crazy ambience, right? So yeah, that's what we like to do, sort of like create not only what is being said, but also what sort of goes around it that creates that, you know, like complete sort of ambience and experience.
So it's not just flat, it feels dynamic and interesting and lively. That's wonderful. I actually feel like I've learned quite a lot about it now, which is great, because obviously I'm a community manager. I know how to manage a community. I don't know how to record a voice actor and then put that in a game, but I feel like I have a better handle on it now. Still couldn't do it, but better handle. So before we speak to our lovely voice actors, out of all the things that you've worked on that have gone into the game, what's been your favourite? Is there a particular line you found hilarious, or a certain ambience you liked working on? Or?
Yeah, I feel it's very tough because there's like so many things that I really enjoyed. So I could say one of my favorite features was the damage stations, and just because it was this completely chaotic environment that we needed to sell that idea of like, you know, this station is going down, it's on fire, you know, and just give that urgency to the player with the delivery of the lines, and you know, even the flight controller, when he hails you, he's like, you need to get in and get out as soon as you can, like you know, don't stay here just mucking around, right? And just like I remember on the landing base, part of the ambience of the landing base, I put some screams there. So
I didn't think I heard that.
So if a player might stick around there a little bit too long for them to be comfortable, because your ship starts to like heat up, then they might hear some screams here and there. That I just added because I wanted to create that ambience of like, you know, like people are really trying to get out here, and you know, you need to get out.
It almost becomes a hellscape. It's bright red, it's very hot, and they're screaming, you know. Close enough. And the first time I ever flew into one of those, I was like, oh no, like I'm getting in and getting out very quickly. It legitimately was quite frightening, so you did a really great job on that.
Personally, I was lucky enough to do both a normal station and an attack station, and feeling the change just in the tone of direction was great. From everything's just normal to no, your station is on fire and ruined, and you just like need help, but you also want people to still come in for business and then go away very quickly because everything's on fire. Yeah,
so you went from
really
recording a very cold location to a very hot location.
That was great. Yeah.
What temperature will you get next?
How many clothes will I need to wear in the booth to get into character? Yeah.
Right, today you're going to wear a snowsuit.
Snowsuit, yeah.
Perfect. So, thank you so much, Paola. Obviously, we will still be speaking to you a little bit throughout this. Next, we are going to look at a generation ship log, one from Amelia and one from Jay. These are from 2 different generation ships that you can go out and find in the galaxy, and they tell 2 different stories, but both ultimately end in tragedy. So we're going to have a look at them, and then we're going to talk to the voice actors a little bit about what went into that, how they did the performances, the characters, and more.
If the sickness killing us all wasn't bad enough, the council just gave the order. Someone flicked a switch and they vented it all. Ring A, C, the med bays, the holding bays, all of it. Anywhere there was a sign of infection, hundreds of people sucked out into space. Hundreds more suffocated with no air. For the greater good. We were raised to believe that the will of the council is absolute. They govern, they rule for all of us. But this? There's talk of a movement to remove the council. They want to get off the ship to leave at the next habitable world. After all these years, none of us have any memory of anything but the Odysseus. It's a dream. We wouldn't know what to do if we got planet-side. I'm 5th generation. All I know is the ship, the council, the laws. And I know that going down to an unknown planet would likely be the death of us all. Besides, it'll never happen. The council won't allow it. There is only one way off this ship.
I don't have much time. He's gonna kill everyone, and I have to stop him. Turns out, Zechariah's promised land isn't a fertile planet. It's the cold vacuum of space. He intends to open up every airlock on the ship and vent all the corridors and containment units. He just proclaimed it to the entire ship in that little voice of his. Everyone seems to be going along with it, thinking it'll take them to a higher plane or some garbage. Am I the only one here still sane? Because it sure feels like it. I have to stop him. I got a loaded carbine, and I'm not gonna let anyone get in my way. I just hope I'm in time.
I love those logs. I love those logs so much. Like I've done about 3 different streams going to the different ships and checking them out. And there was a couple of times. The last time was with Paul Crowther, one of our other community managers. And unfortunately, we heard one of the logs, I think it was yours, and they were like, he's going to vent us all. And we went, like, oh no, that's not the correct reaction you meant to have.
There he is.
So that was great.
Thorough venting.
So, obviously we've got 2 of you, so we'll have to take it in turns, but let's have a look. So, no slap fights. Let's start from the beginning. So, let's go from the middle of where Paola was. So, you've done your audition, you've been sent your script and your character, and you've auditioned and you've got the job. Yay, congratulations, well done both of you. So, now that you have that and you've gotten into the booth, how do you prepare to record? Let's literally start it from before you even say your first line.
Well, I think, to be honest, you kind of have to rewind from that point, because a lot of companies will not send you the script in advance, whether it's through lack of trust or it just hasn't been written yet, or I don't know. Some places seem to think that's the best way to get a performance out of an actor, and I don't think sight reading is the answer to that, but each to his own.
There we are, some feedback for any game devs out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of sight reading. There's a lot of sight reading. For various different reasons. So it's always nice, especially if there's a really emotional script, like a lot of the generation ships, where it's really nice to get that in advance so you can kind of get into the psychology of it, because there's also technical stuff that you need to ask questions about on the day of how this universe works or how this particular part of the universe works and what you're going to be fighting against in an audio edit. So the less information you can be trying to take on at once, the better, I guess. And the direction from these guys is always so spot on because they let us play, which is interesting and kind of like you wouldn't believe how unusual that is. Because often I guess because you are lucky enough to have your own recording studios as well, there's not quite that time push that some outsourcing companies maybe have.
We've paid for an hour, you get an hour. Like,
we can afford to go over a little bit if that means getting the perfect read. But more often than not, the direction is so spot on, we don't need it.
Perfect.
That's nice. That's always nice, rather than half an hour. But what do you want, though? Please use your words.
Very nice. And then, what about you as well, Jay? I take it obviously you agree with most of the points there. But
Oh no, not at all.
Oh, okay.
No.
Right,
We will fight later.
Yeah, no, completely. I think getting the script in advance is a big part of why working with Frontier works well. I get sometimes there's an argument, of course, well, if you get the script in advance, you can sort of end up reducing the feel of the spontaneity of the person saying this, because of course, unless you're an evil villain, you don't always know your monologue and what you're going to say. So sometimes that can affect that, but getting the script in advance is always better because you can figure out where you've got to drive this vehicle and what it's going to feel like. And one of the things I like to do if I get some of the script is I won't necessarily read it through trying to get into character. I'll just go, okay, it's like looking at it to get the shape. What are the beats of this that we're going to want to hit? What's this character going to go through? Are there any, especially in something like Elite, are there any particularly technical words that I'm going to have in here that
Doesn't Drew Wagar love to give me
Oh,
those?
thank you, Drew Wagar, yeah. What have I got to get my tongue around? And then just sort of get it up and walk it around a little bit. I'm going to go, okay, it's kind of going to feel like here, but you always, at least for me, want to leave enough room. You don't want to walk in with, this is who this character is, and this is what they're going to sound like. This is where I'm going to take this script, because you got to have enough room for everyone to come in and go, oh, let's play, and let's. It's like massaging.
And sometimes, like your whole "it's cold" thing, sometimes all it takes is one word from somebody, and it totally changes the way you were thinking about that character, which really helps. But recording something like Elite, for the most part, we're recording multiple characters in one session. So aside from anything else, it kind of helps to have the script in advance so that you use the best voice for each character, because if you were reading them one by one sight reading, you kind of go, oh, well, I guess this one's a kind of Northern English and this one's like a Southern American, and then you get to a character a bit later down and go, oh, I wish I'd used that voice for the second one for this person.
And then you realise you've done the same voice 3 times. You're like, oh no, that.
Oh, we're not allowed to do that.
No.
Paige.
Oh, there's another voice. We're back. It's voice 2 now for Amelia. So, obviously, we've talked a little bit about, what you need to do to prepare beforehand, but we all know that, Mariah Carey, she doesn't like to talk for half an hour before she starts her performances, and certain others love to have only green M&Ms. Do you have any strange rituals or
We call them amateurs.
I don't think we're allowed.
you need to have? Like,
Water.
Good start.
Hydrate yourself, don't eat dairy before a session because it makes your mouth really clicky.
Cool.
Sleep. Those are the main ones, I think. Some people do vocal warm-ups, some people don't. Know the, I don't know how to phrase this, you know the equipment that you're working with.
Yeah, no, that's
It's like riding a horse or driving a car, like you're familiar with yours.
Yeah.
And what works for me might not work for the next person.
I always feel bad when someone will ask me, oh, Jay, what are your warm-ups? I go, I'm
sobbing on a train.
Crying. No, usually if I'm going to a gig, it's like, yes, I get to eat this month and I'm happy. But my warm-up is, well, I'm an insane person who narrates their life while I walk around my house. So my larynx is constantly being worked. So it's like, no, I'm ready to go. Whenever you are, Jay,
He's a really fun house guest.
I'm a great house guest.
Somebody please take him off me.
Excellent. Okay, we'll bear. All right, that one.
I'm leaving him here.
Excellent, good. We'll find a pen somewhere. Right. So let's take it back a little bit to the actual characters themselves. And obviously you picked up a point about accents and things like that. So you obviously say that you are only given the bare minimum. You're given a name and a couple of traits. How do you theoretically build a character out of that to actually start recording anything?
I think usually I would try and get, because I come from a psychology background, that's what I was training in before I started voicing full time after uni. So I'll always go at it from that point of view, like what do those traits say about the way that somebody will think?
Okay.
And that fuels the voice. For me, it all comes from the breathing and the thought patterns. And actually the accent is kind of the least important part of it. That's what brings the spice to differentiate it from other characters. But there's so much more to a character than just an accent. There's the rhythm of your speech and playing with pitch and inflection or speech irregularities. And that's what brings a character to life. You could get 20 people doing the exact same accent, but they'd all drive that car differently.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things, because I've been learning a little bit about voice acting just in my spare time, because I find it interesting, but pause sounds, because anyone can read a script. I can read this right now and see that I've written, working through the scripts, do you tend, but my, I'm trying to think it's going to be different from everyone else's, so do you make that the same as yours in your voice, or do you put in a totally different sound that you'd never use?
For me, it's not conscious.
Yeah.
It's the way, like that weird noise there is apparently my thinking noise. Like,
yeah, and I wouldn't go, it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, but it depends on the situation that person is in as well. Like me talking to you here would be different to me lying in bed talking to my best mate on the phone would be different to me at a funeral or at school or anything like that. The situation, the environment, what I've been through in the scene prior to that, how tired I am, how cold I am, just all those situational things come together to totally change the exact same person. So I could give you two reads with the same accent, the same kind of inflection, the same speech patterns, but they'd feel very different.
Perfect.
And that's all down to communication between your team and my team about how we're going to drive this person.
So it is a lot more than just, because when it comes to amateurs, you could look at a script and you can read it out, but there's a lot more to actually think about before you even start speaking.
Because it can't sound like you're reading a script, right? It has to sound like it's the first time those thoughts have ever entered your head, unless you are the classic villain where I've been thinking about this for a long time.
Everyone has the evil laugh.
Hello.
Yeah.
And how about you, Jay?
It's similar, I mean, unsurprisingly, but I very much will get a script and I'll try and find, here's their character traits, a bit of their backstory, and I'll go, so this is what they're saying. What's the feeling behind it? Are they saying this because they're angry? And even if they're angry, are they saying this because they're angry, but actually secretly they're insecure about this, and they're putting anger on top of that to cover this up? What's the thing that's driving why they're talking, and that then impacts how they're talking? And I think talking about the pauses and the ums and ahs, that's one of the things about working with Frontier is you're allowed to do that. Sometimes it's, sorry, why are you breathing?
Yeah.
Why did you go,
how dare you inhale on our time?
And much to the chagrin of writers, I mean, I love them to bits, but 9 times out of 10 I'll get the script and go, okay, I'm going to ignore all of these commas, hyphens, colons, full stops, because it's the thing of, we don't write like we talk. Even that's the thing about writing great dialogue is even then it's like, but I'm not gonna pause there because it's got to be a pause where it feels natural, and that's not how we write. We write it to be in an inner monologue, and then we look at it and go, no, that doesn't flow when I'm trying to give this speech.
Yeah, or rather the punctuation is there to facilitate understanding. It's not a read guide.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do that. They'll be like a comma and the person's name, I don't want to do it that way, comma Ian. And people will voice the comma, there'll be a little pause and you're like, people don't talk like that though.
No, it's like you can read that way.
Would you like a cup of tea, Millie?
It's weird.
You just go, do you want a cup of tea, Millie?
For many reasons that's weird, including the fact that you make tea wrong.
Don't make me bring up the story.
Let's not
Milk him first. Who does that?
Why did you have 2 cups? Why did you have 2 cups? I'm just saying.
That's as bad as Will's hot water. We won't discuss that right now.
Oh God.
Right, we'll have a tea making lesson after this. Don't worry. That does lead me into my next point. So obviously we talked a little bit about being allowed to play in a session, and so as you say, would you like a cup of tea, Millie?
Perfect read.
Yeah.
Well done. You've got the role.
Thank you. I'm off.
Can we get another one for safety, please?
Millie! Right, but that's the point. At which point would you decide to go, maybe it should be the other way around, maybe it should be, Millie, do you want a cup of tea? So how do you actually then communicate that? How do you work with that and change up how character sounds, or do you
That depends on the client, because some of them are really fine with that and want you to bring that kind of input, and some of them it's very much a wall of, you are here to read a script and then go away. And you get fairly good fairly early on at judging which is which, and you kind of, if you've never worked with somebody before, you'll spend a couple of minutes at the beginning kind of sounding out how this relationship is going to go and what they're comfortable with, because you are there to provide a service at the end of the day. They have to leave that room feeling like this was a good decision and you haven't wasted their time, and then maybe money will turn up in your bank account and you can pay the bills.
Yay!
That's always fun.
Always happy, always good times.
So it depends on the client.
Very much so.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
I just walk in and go, look, everybody, this is how I'm going to do it. If you don't like it, you can hire somebody else.
Jay's Toast of London.
Yeah. Lady Gaga. No, exactly that. I mean, she said it all.
Very good.
Got to feel it out. And I hate to say it, but the thing is as well, it always gets much better performance. Almost always. I mean, there is so much you can do once. I mean, we're both very fortunate enough now that we've worked on enough games to kind of know what we're doing in the booth, that even with a director who perhaps wants to take us in a slightly dodgy direction in terms of performance, or it's just like, no, these. I mean, we've both had sessions where we've been read 500 lines as a line read, which is basically where they go, I like you, and they expect you to parrot back, I like you. Okay, great, next line. I would like to go to the shops. I would like to go to the shops. It's like, why have you hired me? This is just a mimicry thing. So you try and, even in the slightly harder situations, you try and find a way to at least put your own stamp on things. And I saw something the other day, it was something like, even if you're in something bad, or don't be the worst thing in the thing that's bad.
I like that.
I was
So
like, okay,
bring the
that'll
best
do
you
it.
can bring in.
Exactly, yeah.
And then, Paolo.
One thing I can add is just like one very important thing that we try to do here as much as we can is like have good communication and make the voice actor feel comfortable. So if they feel the comfort of like, you know what, let's try this thing, you know, like, and you're like, yeah, sure, you know, like, let's just do it. So we really try to do that here, and just like we just really like the voice actors' input as well, and just their ideas, and if they want to try this different approach completely that maybe wasn't quite on the director's notes, but works very well. So all those kind of things that we just encourage, and we think it always brings out the best that we can get.
And especially if you've got a writer who's familiar with you, like the stuff we did for Michael's story, where Drew was actually writing for specific actors. Like he knew Jay and myself really well, and he could hear our voices as he was writing that. Like that's always nice, I think, as well, for a writer to know where the characterization, like I can hear where they'd breathe here, so I can add just that little bit of extra you can always tell when a script has been written by somebody who knows you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that little extra tweak.
That's good to hear.
Just to say, on the note about sort of making actors comfortable, is especially with some of these generation shit blogs, which were relatively intense and you know, bad things happened, is, you know, for an actor, if we don't feel comfortable in the environment and who we're working with, it becomes harder for us to be as emotionally vulnerable as we need to be. Okay, so by the end of this script, you want me like cradling somebody dying in my arms and me being in floods of tears. All right, I can do it because I'm an actor, but if the environment you're working in just feels, this is a little bit, it just takes 10% off the top because we're conscious of the environment we're in. So the more comfortable
for me,
you
but
are.
that's because I have no shame.
Well, yeah,
at
that's
all.
true.
Like, I will cry now.
Good. Melly, we'll get you to show that
I
later.
won't, I'm
Spoilers
sorry.
for
I won't
later
cry
in
down my microphone.
Cry now.
Yeah.
Cry now.
Do not encourage her.
Oh, okay.
Now, Jay, I believe at home you do have, you know,
God.
technology capable of doing recording, you know,
I
from
do.
the comfort of your own home.
I do indeed.
So how does the technical side of the recording actually work for you? So we've seen how the software that we use works to actually match up the lines. Walk us through a little bit of how the recording process works from your end.
It can depend on the client. Sometimes they'll have specific tools. Sometimes they'll just send me a script. And so in my booth at home, I've got my monitor up, obviously, and various audio bits of kit. So I'll have the script up in front of me and my recording kit, which I generally will just hit record and let it kind of run and just capture the whole session. In fact, one of the audio logs from Frontier was done from my studio because it was a case of, we either missed this one or we wanted to grab this extra line, or could we just get a read of this? And there wasn't time for me to get back up to the Cambridge office, so we did it remote. It's pretty simple. I mean, usually people will dial in on Skype to direct. There's various audio tools like Source Connect and IPDTL and a few others that allow complete remote recording, where it's like my microphone connects to the equipment here at Frontier as far as they're concerned, and they can completely manage the session, which from my perspective is always the preferred, because it means I don't have to have 5% of brain power spent on, did my audio peak there, if I'm recording it locally. But it's obviously a lot more common now, especially working with indie devs, say, who perhaps don't either have their own studio or the budget to go out and go to a separate studio, is, well, they'll just dial in and use mine over phone or Skype, or even just like I've had a FaceTime with one client before, which is very disturbing. It's like, nobody needs to see my cry face, go away.
No, we need to feel it, we need to understand.
I'm crying, just take my word for it.
I think I would always prefer to be in the studio with the devs, though. Like the recording from home stuff, it's convenient, but I think you get a better working relationship and better communication if you can actually see people. It's crazy. It's like human interaction matters or something.
It's like you're reading my script because you've gone on to my next question here.
So I'm sorry.
Melly. Right. So that's a good thing. So say you are doing a script where you're having a conversation, but you are not actually in the booth with the other voice actor. How are you going to make that work?
Happened, hasn't it? The first game we were in together.
I can imagine that has happened. That's
happened.
why, that's
he
one of
got
the
me
risks.
pregnant, and I didn't know it was him.
And you were a terrible employee.
In a game.
I'm just saying.
Well, that went somewhere I did not expect.
Yeah, tell me about it.
You let me die.
We'd only been friends for a few months as well. It was really weird. We got to the end of this game recording, and both of us were NDA'd, so we didn't know it was each other.
Yeah.
We got to the end, and I was like, I need to find out who this guy was, because I've gone through a traumatic relationship with him. And then the NDAs came up, and like, oh God, it's Jay. Yeah.
So, aside from traumatic experiences, obviously, how did you perform against an actor you didn't even know was there?
Carefully.
Fair enough. Well, it's one of the things. Like, if I wasn't looking, but I was like, Millie, how are you? Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just going to sound so wooden.
It's difficult, right?
Yeah.
Things have changed a bit since we recorded that. I think more devs are getting familiar with the idea that we can bring traditional acting techniques into the games world and make things easier. We can do things like table reads and having actors in the booth together for dramatic scenes, and doing full performance capture and all sorts of stuff that will help make a performance better. But sometimes you will still get those dry, one person records and then another person records, and a lot of the times you won't even hear who you're having a conversation against, and unless the direction is spot on, that can sound really weird, because one person's shouting and the other person's like hushed, which is curious.
I can sense that Paola's had experience with this, because we're both
It's tough, like, because sometimes you have to do it. Maybe the other actor can't come in, or you just have to do the read. But I'm not a voice actor, so I struggle to get through what we wish the lines would deliver to the actor who's in the booth. So ideally, if you don't have one actor at a time, you can have both or more. If you had recordings before from the other person, you can play them and sort of cue them so that the actor in the booth can hear the performed line from the actor that recorded before, and they can sort of cue from there.
That helps so much. Because it goes back to that whole we're not just reading words thing. The way I respond to a question you ask me is so balanced by the way you ask it and your tone of voice and the emotion behind it and the pacing of it. If you go up at the end of a sentence, that will affect where I start the note for my responding sentence.
And if I just responded, I really don't understand what you mean, you went, oh, I'm sorry, then it would be like, I have no idea how I'm meant to feel about this scene right now.
And in natural speech, you talk over each other. There's back and forth, and that's what makes it feel alive. When you hear a game where it's like, my line stops.
How dare you?
Exactly. Like, that's dead. That feels stilted. It doesn't feel like it's alive. And we're lucky enough to be in a space with games now where we get to play around with techniques and figure out what works and what makes something feel like it's real.
Awesome.
Yeah, that.
And excellent ditto
All right.
full marks.
I think it's like can be like the Star Wars scene. It's like someone's like, "I love you," and the person goes, "I know." That's like that. Yeah, that horrible context miss. And it's like all things acting is so contextual. It's like one of us is at the coffee shop and the other one thinks we're in a war zone. This is gonna go great.
Yeah. And that's not always down to poor communication from the direction side of things. Like you and I could get the same piece of direction and interpret it differently because we think differently. But having each other in a room, we will understand what the other person is going through.
Play
that's
off of
just
each
how
other.
it happens. Yeah. That's people.
So, do you have any other fun facts or tidbits you'd like to share?
Oh God.
Ooh.
None of that's suitable for a family-friendly
Excellent.
stream.
Well, yeah, I'm very glad that you have clarified that. And now about you, Millie, or is it the same?
Fun facts. Oh, I don't know.
Or any advice for
if you think about fun
yeah.
facts, I'll just say forget about the voices. That's like my number one thing for anyone who's like, I want to get into voice acting. Forget the voices, because I had this realization because I was the kid who did a million voices. And then I was like, I'll go into voice acting. Surely I'll be like the best one around because I can do a million voices. And like everyone welcomes you in and goes, everyone can, kid. And you're like, oh, crap, okay. Like you go, I can do American. So can I. All right, great. I can do Scottish. So can I. Great. It's understanding that the only thing that's going to differentiate you really is how you perform, perform that character. That's the only thing that sets you apart. So learn to act and don't worry about the voices.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd say pretty much the same thing, that what you bring to a character, there is no best, basically. There is no best. There might be you are chosen on that particular occasion, but what you bring to a character will be completely different to what somebody else brings to a character, and it's not always about whether that's better than that thing over there. It's just what happens to work on that day. Like we were saying earlier, I missed out on a role once that I was supposed to play the lead in a thing, and it was all right up to the moment of contract signed, and then it turned out I had a similar voice to the CEO's ex-girlfriend. And he just couldn't listen to me.
Oh,
that's fine. Like, there's no
problematic.
control I can have over that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the lesson. Give up any control you have over your life.
Control what you can. Don't panic
Despair.
about what you can't.
Yeah.
Or take Millie's advice and despair. It's perfect.
Abandon all hope and enter the darkness.
Abandon all sense of, like,
Shame.
Yeah. Like, stop worrying what people think about you. It's good advice for life generally, but more so in this, especially if you have to do motion capture.
Ooh.
You think Benedict
Everyone sees
Cumberbatch
everything,
was
just
comfortable,
like,
smiled.
Yeah.
You know.
You get used to making an idiot of yourself.
Perfect. So forget the voices, be an idiot.
Yay!
Excellent.
Turn
now,
up on time.
Turn up on
Turn
time.
up on time
Or
and be
early.
nice and early. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're late.
Yeah,
Just
pretty
saying.
much. That goes for most things. Now, we are coming to the end of the stream, but we've got a couple of little things left to do. So first, you two have prompts.
Apparently so,
You
yes.
do. So, introducing Freya Wright and Gareth Phillips. We are going to do a little improvisation exercise in a couple of minutes where these two are going to take what we've discussed today, what we've learned about voice acting and character and building, and they're going to take the characters that I've given them, they're going to create their character, and then myself and Paola are going to help direct them. So we're going to give them a scene. But what we're going to do first, while they have a minute to absorb their characters, so we don't just launch straight into reading off the paper, we're going to do a little giveaway. And I think we'll give away the Frontier, which is exclusive because you can't buy it, Mamba paint job, which is super pretty. And how we normally do this is we ask them to pop something in the chat. So Paola, what would you like our lovely audience to pop into the chat for a chance to win a Frontier Mamba paint job?
Let's see. Most famous commander in Elite lore.
Oh, you're giving them a quiz now.
Ooh.
All right, so I'm going to say, put in hashtag Jameson, and we will enter you in with a chance to win. Now, my monitor is not working, so I won't be able to see that. So in a moment, Stephen will show me a piece of paper with the winner's name on. That will be from across YouTube, Twitch, and Mixer, so pop them in. Try not to put them in multiple times, but we won't slap you on the wrist if you do. Give us a couple of minutes. So yes, hashtag Jameson. But yeah, this has been fascinating, absolutely wonderful, and it's been so lovely to talk about. While we do have a moment, I will mention for you in the chat that have experienced any issues with bugs from the September update or with any of the mission board passenger issues that have come up today. We are aware, the team are working on them, and the moment we have an update for you, we will let you know via the forums, Facebook, Reddit, Steam, Twitter, all over the usual channels. So if you can hold on for just a little while longer, we will get you sorted as soon as we possibly can. And thank you for your patience. But there we go. This has been a great stream. I've really loved it, and it's been fascinating to learn more about your job, because I've known you for a while, but straight over my head.
Yeah, no, it's been great to have a chat here and have two of the voice actors that we have a lot of experience with, and it's been awesome. Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
It's been a good time. So, are you prepared to give these guys some fun direction?
Ready as always.
All right, we're going to get there in a
Happy to
moment
hear
once
us.
we've got our winner. So, we'll get our winner in a moment, but let's have a look. So, I've written an improvisation prompt. I'm going to attempt to read as well as Jay read his earlier. So, Zen.
Big breath.
Great, now I'm even more nervous.
Good.
I've got the voice actors coaching me.
Sorry, when you're ready, Paige, thank you.
All right, thank you. So, Freya Wright, Amelia, is attempting to dock at Burnell Station in Seoul with a hold full of stolen goods, naughty, naughty lady, which she intends to sell at the station's black market. Unfortunately, while she was stealing the goods, her ship sustained some damage, and so when she arrived at the station, her silent running didn't work, and she was scanned. Number one mistake to make for a smuggler. Gareth Phillips, Jay, is currently on duty as the station announcer at Burnell, and received intel that a damaged ship which is trying to dock may have stolen goods on board, but he's not quite sure. So now it's up to Freya to get docking information from Gareth, using all the skills she's picked up over the last few years as a thief, an assassin, an all-round bad guy. So what is going to happen? We will find out as soon as we have our winner.
Can I end this real quick by just fire all station guns? Thank you.
Well, I don't know. It depends how good Millie is at convincing you not to kill her.
Fire everything!
Okay.
Worked so far
Yeah.
in real life.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, as long as I can read that well, our winner of the Frontier Mamba paint job on Twitch is Microwhack, I believe. So, congratulations, Microwhack, unless it's microwave or it's something else.
Just a
I'm
small
sure
whack. There you go.
I'm sure we will find you in the chat, but congratulations on your win, and thank you for tuning in tonight. What you need to do... Micro war! Okay, Stephen cannot write.
Just a little one.
A small conflict.
Stephen,
It's like a
you're
light
fired.
intensity conflict.
Yeah, a light one.
Okay.
The prize for
silence,
handwriting.
children.
Okay, behave.
Thank you very much,
Sorry,
darlings.
Sorry.
Micro War, not Micro Whack or Mac or whatever your name is. And then on YouTube, if I'm guessing that's Dumel. Perfect. Dumel and Micro War. If you could email into community@frontier.co.uk with the title "I won the Mamba paint job and Stephen couldn't spell my name," we'll get that prize sent over to you as soon as possible. And thank you for joining us. And thank you, Stephen. So, round of applause for
Well done,
Stephen,
Stephen.
who has
Bravo.
a beautiful camera manager.
Good job.
So,
Awful handwriting, though.
awful handwriting, great camera manager. Now, as we know, Freya is currently going to try and dock at Burnell Station to sell her stolen goods. Myself and Paola are going to listen and occasionally interject with some directorial notes
Oh god.
and see if we can improve the situation a little bit. So, take it away, guys. Ship is on approach.
This is the little standoff. Hello, Burnell Station.
Yes, sorry, the controls on this are a little bit, there's been some damage.
Oh, do you need any help?
If you could, yes, please.
Bit less nervous, a bit more confident.
If you could, yes, please.
Okay. Hang on, let me check my sensors. Okay, I'm showing here. You've not got anything naughty on board, have you?
Define naughty.
Well, you know, things you shouldn't have, things that people might ask questions about. I mean,
Of course not.
no, I mean.
Oh, somebody's been very naughty around this station, haven't they?
Well, they have, and I got in trouble last time.
Little interjection. Maybe sound a little bit drunk.
And then last time I got into so much trouble, and the man came and he said I can't work in
Accusatory.
anymore,
What is he doing?
and I can't let you in.
Are you all right? Are you?
No, I'm not. Do I sound all right? No, you can't come in. I've had a really bad day, and
I thought that was supposed to be your job.
It is my job, and I'm going to do it properly.
There we go.
So no, you definitely can't come in.
All right, let's change tactic a little bit. Let's try and chat him up, make him feel good about himself. He's asleep, so a little louder, maybe.
Sweetheart, are you still there?
I'm here. Why? What do you want?
I just thought if I could come on board and get all the problems with my ship patched up. I mean, it sounds like you've had an awful day.
I've had an awful week as well.
Yes,
Right,
I know
it's been
the
really
feeling.
hard.
I know the
Nobody
feeling.
understands
There aren't
me
any
here.
bars around here, are they?
I think there's one. I've never really been in it.
Gareth, what if you were a bit less drunk and a bit more Welsh? Can we try that?
Is that different? All right, hang on then.
Well, that's what I'd like to hear. Can we try that?
Okay. But I've not been to the bar here, you see. I've not really had many friends to take me, you know. Just work and sleep and work and sleep.
Well, I've never been on anywhere on this system. I'd quite like to see what the bars have to hold. Maybe we could go and check it out while somebody's giving the ship the once over. Or
Freya, a little bit more opera singer, please.
maybe we could go and check out the bar later. I've heard some good things about Living Brandy.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, if I send a man down to have a look over your ship, is he going to find anything naughty?
Of course not, darling.
I mean, it's not more than my job's worth,
Okay,
isn't it?
stop.
It's got very silly.
None of this is working. Right, okay,
Sorry.
so I
Sorry,
want you
Paige.
to keep the same characters, the same actors, but I want you to switch roles. So now I want you to be the bumbling man, and I want you to be the seductress trying to dock.
I'm now docking, okay.
Yeah,
But as a man.
With the Welsh accent, please.
Right.
And I'm
You're still an
like,
opera singer.
okay.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, hello there. Burnell Station. I'd like to come aboard, if that's all right with you.
I'm sorry, why?
Well, you look so good out here in space, like the jewel in the
Do you
crown.
have an appointment?
Well, no, but it's never stopped me coming in before.
This is a very important place.
A cat has just jumped into your lap. Its claws are everywhere.
Oh, good lord!
Well, are you all right in there? Do you need the help?
No, I'm not!
I mean, if I
So
came
many
in...
teeth.
You are terrified of cats.
What? That wasn't a cat, was it? It was a cat.
How do you know? Did you put this here?
I'm leaving. I'm going into hyperdrive and I'm getting the hell out of here. I don't
You're
like
in
cats.
the station.
Oh, I'm in the station now,
Yeah,
am I?
yeah.
I'm getting on the ship.
You're getting
and I'm
shot at.
leaving.
You're getting shot at right now
In the
from
station.
everywhere.
Oh, God.
Yes.
What are you doing that for?
It wasn't me. The cat jumped on it.
Well, what have you got a cat in your ship for?
I don't know.
Right, I'm arming all station guns.
Okay.
Right, you've had it now. You and your cat. I've gone
Okay.
Geordie now for some
Not
reason.
my cat. I don't know where it came from.
Okay, and now a little Les Miserables as you fly away.
Goodbye.
And scene! Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Amazing.
It's absolutely what we do
That's
in the
what
booth.
we want.
Now,
Yeah, this is a clear indication of what happens in a voice
Oh,
booth
it's
and
exactly
the level
that.
of realism in Elite
and,
Dangerous
when you go
Logs.
to an Amdram school and when you work at a game dev.
I'm
so,
pretty sure they were listening to that thinking, I feel like I'm docking at Burnell Station. This is a scene I've played out.
Yeah.
It's good.
Of course,
Really
of course.
So every time you dock, you'll now remember this, and I'm sorry. And
The cat at Burnell
the
Station.
cat
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Burnell
Cat of Burnell
Station,
Station.
a
She's getting shot
saga
at.
by Freya and Gareth. Now, I'm afraid that's all we have time for tonight,
Oh, no.
everybody. Oh no! See, now I'm doing accents. Let's not try that. So, thank you everybody so much for tuning in tonight. We've hoped you've had some fun, that you've learnt some more stuff about the industry. If you're an aspiring voice actor, you've learnt a little bit more from some of the professionals that we work with. Jane, no. And we hope that you will come back and see us again. We have more streams next week on Monday and Thursday as usual. We will fill you in on those on social very soon. But yes, thank you so much, Amelia, and thank you so much, Jay.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure having you on, learning a bit more about what you do. Will you come back again sometime?
But of course.
Excellent.
We, as she said,
Okay,
of course.
we've all gone French. Very
I don't know
interesting.
why.
Gareth
This has not been
Phillips,
discussed.
Burnell Station. No, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Paola.
Yeah,
thank you so
thank
much
you.
for joining us. Obviously, you're here every day like me, so that's absolutely fine. And there we go. So, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you again soon. Bye.